Why men are drawn to silence, feminine energy attraction, Carl Jung relationships, power of non-reactivity, how to attract him without chasing, magnetic feminine presence, emotional distance creates desire, mystery of women, what makes a man obsess, psychological attraction triggers, how men react when you pull back, silent confidence in women, how to make him miss you without contact, emotional control and attraction, masculine-feminine polarity, subconscious reasons he can't stop thinking of you, how to mirror a man's emotions, why silence works in love, psychology of calmness in relationships, feminine power without words, how to awaken his emotions, nonverbal seduction, what men feel but don't understand, spiritual dynamics of attraction, intuitive emotional response, power of not over-explaining, what your silence says to him, how women attract energetically, Jungian psychology of attraction, understanding polarity in dating, how stillness triggers, desire, emotional balance feminine energy, mystery as attraction, emotional restraint magnetism, conscious feminine behavior, how to be irresistible with presence, how men respond to distance, stepping back creates attraction, silent strength in dating, how to stay on his mind, slow energy, deep impact, feminine silence bonding, subconscious, energy attraction, calm confident feminine presence, high value woman energy, deep attraction psychology, how to get his attention without words, power of presence in love. Have you ever wondered why some women can captivate a man without saying a single word? Why her stillness, her silence, not loudness or pursuit, is what haunts him most. It is because attraction, in its rawest form, is not built on words. It unfolds in the quiet spaces, the tension of the unsaid, the energy that simmers just beneath conscious awareness. Most men cannot articulate this force. They feel it, they react to it, but they do not understand it, and that is precisely why it possesses such unrelenting power. A woman anchored in her own quiet composure, a woman unshaken by the need to explain, convince, or chase, is not merely attractive. She is dangerous to the fragile parts of his ego. She becomes the mirror he did not ask for, and yet cannot look away from. In Jungian psychology, the human psyche is built not only upon what is visible, but upon shadows, the unconscious fragments that linger beneath awareness. For the masculine, those shadows often carry insecurities, doubts, unmet desires, and the relentless need to prove worth through conquest or control. But when he encounters a woman who exists in stillness, who refrains from chasing validation, something ancient stirs within him. You see, silence is not emptiness. It is a presence so rooted, so self-possessed, that it commands the environment without effort. In her silence, she refuses to become reactive to his games. She does not flood him with words to ease discomfort. She does not shrink to make herself palatable. She does not chase after crumbs of attention, as if her worth depends on his recognition. Instead, she remains steady, composed, and this unsettles him more than any argument, more than any confession of desire. Because within that quiet, she holds a boundary, one carved not in aggression, but in deep feminine self-awareness. A boundary that says, I know who I am. With or without you, the modern world often conditions women to perform, to overexpress, to be endlessly available, to prove their worth with words, with validation-seeking behaviors, with exaggerated emotional displays. But the woman who learns the ancient art of restraint, who taps into the profound depth of feminine stillness, becomes rare. And rarity breeds fascination. The man cannot intellectualize why he thinks of her in the quiet hours, why he finds himself craving her attention, even though she gives so little away. His mind will try to rationalize, but his body, his unconscious, already knows. It is because she does not need him to complete her dot in a world drowning in noise. Her silence becomes an oasis, a space where mystery still breathes, where depth still exists. Jung taught that every human being carries both masculine and feminine energies within, often at odds, often hidden beneath the mask society demands we wear. But when a woman ceases to perform, when she becomes still, she calls forth his unintegrated shadows. She holds up the psychological mirror, forcing him to see not only her, but himself reflected through her silence. His desire, his insecurity, his hunger for control, his buried need for connection. And here lies the paradox. The more she refrains, the more magnetic she becomes. Not because she withholds as a tactic, but because her presence no longer bends to his unconscious projections. She has done her shadow work. She has danced with her fears, faced her loneliness, and embraced the dark corners of herself most refuse to see Dot. So when she stands in his presence, saying little, offering no pursuit, it is not weakness, it is command, it is knowing, it is the radiant calm of a woman who has already met herself in the depths and found peace. And he feels it, though he cannot name it. He feels it in the way his pulse quickens when she enters a room, though her gaze barely lingers on him. He feels it in the tightness of his chest when her attention remains elusive, when her silence fills the air like an unanswered question. His logical mind scrambles to dissect the attraction, to decode the quiet power radiating from her. But there are no words for this, only sensation, only instinct. Dot. It is because her silence is not a void, it is an unspoken language. A language written in energy, in presence, in the quiet rebellion of a woman who refuses to fracture herself for the comfort of others. The man, often conditioned to conquer, to pursue, to possess, finds himself disarmed by the woman who does not crumble beneath his charm, who does not chase when he pulls away, who does not contort herself to secure his approval. Her refusal to perform destabilizes the ego-driven game she's learned to master. And make no mistake, this is not about games at all. This is about energetic sovereignty, about the psychological depth cultivated when a woman learns to sit with herself, to befriend solitude, to choose her peace over her impulses. You see, the feminine has long been misunderstood, packaged as either soft compliance or aggressive resistance. But beneath those extremes lies her true power, the power of non-reaction, the power of stillness, the subtle, unwavering confidence of a woman whose presence speaks louder than words, whose calm disrupts the chaos around her. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the sacred process of integrating the fragmented self, of becoming whole from within. A woman who embodies this silent confidence has done precisely that. She has dismantled the false identities built on external validation. She has walked through the discomfort of loneliness without rushing to fill the void. She has tasted her own fears, her shadows, and emerged unbroken, not desperate, but discerning. And that discernment unsettles him. For the man, her silence awakens something buried deep within, his own unclaimed vulnerabilities, the parts of himself he avoids through distraction, pursuit, or conquest. Her stillness reflects his chaos. Her quiet strength exposes his insecurities. She becomes both magnet and mirror, drawing him in while forcing him to confront the truth he's buried beneath bravado and control. Yet he remains drawn to her, unable to resist the enigma she embodies, the mystery that cannot be solved, the calm that cannot be shaken. His desire is no longer rooted solely in physical attraction, but in the spiritual and psychological depth she radiates, the depth he yearns for, yet fears to explore. Dot in her silence. She does not promise him understanding. She does not rush to soothe his discomfort or chase after his attention. Instead, she holds space for him to feel, to question, to unravel. And in that space, his obsession grows, because obsession at its core is not born from excess. It is born from absence, from the tantalizing space where mystery thrives, where answers remain hidden, where the mind is forced to wander. Her silence becomes that space, the unknown that invites him deeper, even as it unbalances him completely. And though he cannot name it, though he cannot comprehend why her quiet, her calm, her refusal to chase lingers in his mind, the truth remains. It is her silence that holds him captive. The masculine mind, so often wired for logic, for action, for control, is ill-equipped to navigate the wilderness of the unknown. Yet that is precisely where her silence leaves him, stranded. In the depths of his own uncertainty, unable to conquer, unable to categorize. She is not withholding to manipulate, but simply existing beyond his grasp. And it drives him mad in the most exquisite way. Because deep within every man lies the anima, the unconscious feminine archetype that Jung spoke of, an ethereal blueprint of what he seeks in a woman. Yet the anima is elusive. She is mystery, emotion, intuition, depth. She is the part of him that calls him home to himself, but also exposes his incompleteness. When a woman embodies this archetype in the flesh, quiet, grounded, unattached, it awakens his deepest longing, but also his deepest discomfort. For she represents both the promise of connection and the terror of losing control. Her silence does not conform to the linear, rational structures he depends on. Instead, it dissolves them, forcing him to feel beyond words, to sense beyond thought. You, as the woman who holds this power, are not playing a role. You are not calculating silence like a weapon. You are simply resting in the fullness of your feminine essence. The receptive, magnetic energy that does not need to chase, that does not collapse to please, that does not dilute itself for temporary. Validation dot, it is this undiluted presence that entangles him. Your quiet becomes his storm. Your restraint becomes his unraveling dot in the absence of your words. He hears his own insecurities echo louder. In the stillness of your being, he is forced to confront the parts of himself that long for approval, for conquest, for reassurance. He projects these unmet needs onto you, sensing, even subconsciously, that your silence holds a mirror to his fragmented identity. But here is the paradox. The more he feels destabilized, the more he desires you. Not because you perform, but because you don't. Because your absence of need signals self-mastery. Because your refusal to compete for his attention reveals your inner worth. He senses it, even when he cannot articulate it. The modern world teaches women to overexpress, to overgive, to overexplain, believing that love is earned through relentless effort. But love, true magnetism, is born in the space between action and restraint. In the unspoken confidence of knowing that your value does not diminish in stillness. When you sit in that space, unbothered, unworried, you become unforgettable. Not for your words, but for your energy. Not for your performance, but for your refusal to betray your peace. Men are drawn to women who know themselves. But they become obsessed with the woman who knows her worth so deeply that she does not offer. If a temporary comfort, the woman who lets silence linger. The woman who allows mystery to breathe. The woman who trusts that what is meant for her will come, not because she chased it, but because she aligned with it. And that alignment, that calm, that sacred non-reaction, it awakens something primal within him. A hunger, a fascination, a desire that has no logic, no roadmap, only longing. And so your silence drives him mad. Your quiet unbalances his certainty. Your restraint exposes his shadows. And though he may never fully understand why, he will remember you, he will feel you. Long after words fade, long after attention shifts, the woman who mastered her silence will remain etched in his psyche like a riddle he cannot solve. And what unsettles him most is not your beauty, though that may catch his attention at first. It is the enigma beneath your surface, the depth that refuses to reveal itself on demand. The modern world, with its endless noise and shallow displays, has numbed many to the rarity of depth. But you, woman of quiet power, carry an ancient signal, a frequency that resonates beyond appearances, beyond words, straight into his unconscious. His friends may ask what draws him to you, and he will struggle to answer. Because how does one explain an obsession with presence? How does one quantify the irresistible pull toward a woman who offers no reassurance, no predictable pattern, no pursuit? His mind may seek logic, But your energy speaks to something buried far deeper than logic. It speaks to his unresolved. Longing for wholeness. In Jungian thought, wholeness is not achieved through control, but through integration, facing the shadows, surrendering the masks, dismantling ego's illusions. Yet most men avoid this work, projecting their unmet needs onto women, onto success, onto conquest. But when you embody your quiet sovereignty, you interrupt this projection. You become the mirror he cannot manipulate, the silence he cannot. Filled with empty words. And that silence, oh, how it reverberates through him like a haunting melody. You sit in your calm, unreactive presence, and he feels it like a storm building beneath his ribcage. His body responds before his mind can comprehend. His thoughts consumed by questions, by fantasies, by the itch of uncertainty. You have not promised him anything, yet he feels bound to the mystery you represent. The ancient feminine archetype has always wielded this power, the unspoken, the intuitive, the unattainable, not through defiance, but through pure self-possession. The sirens of myth, the muses of poetry, the feminine in dreams, they are never loud, never desperate. They lure not with performance, but with energy. They ignite obsession through absence, that it is your refusal to overgive that holds him captive. Your ability to sit in stillness while he searches for footing unsettles him. The more you remain unmoved by his attempts to stir your emotions, the deeper his fascination grows. This is not cruelty. It is mastery, emotional maturity, shadow integration, the sacred art of not collapsing your essence to soothe another's insecurity. And make no mistake, this power is earned, not inherited. It comes from the nights you sat alone, facing your own shadows. From the moments you chose solitude over shallow validation. From the tears you shed reclaiming your worth, brick by brick, until silence no longer frightened you. It freed you. Now, you wear your quiet like armor. Not hardened, not closed, but unwavering. Your peace is not conditional. Your energy is not transactional. And that terrifies him, because he has been conditioned to believe desire must be chased, that control guarantees connection. But you remind him that real connection cannot be demanded. It must be earned. And his ego, it writhes under the weight of that realization. Still, his body remembers you. His unconscious paints your image behind his eyelids. Your stillness echoes in his restless mind. And though he may run, may distract, may deny, the silent woman leaves, a mark far louder than words ever could. There is a reason the poets wrote of women like you as storms disguised in still waters. To the untrained eye, you seem composed, distant, quietly graceful. But beneath the surface of your restraint lies the most potent force of all, mastery over your own energy. And a woman who masters her energy becomes impossible to possess, yet impossible to forget. For him, this is maddening. He cannot unravel the puzzle, cannot predict the outcome, cannot sink his hooks into a woman who does not crave his validation. His world, built on control, begins to fracture beneath the weight of your non-reaction. Your silence dismantles the fragile scaffolding of his ego, and in its place, desire blooms, wild, uncontrollable, disorienting. You see, when a woman does not chase, when she does not collapse into over-explanation or scramble for reassurance, she rises above the games entirely. And that altitude, that psychological distance, is the very thing that commands his attention. It taps into the deepest layers of his unconscious, awakening ancient instincts he cannot suppress. Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine soul image within every man, buried beneath layers of social conditioning, fear, and unintegrated shadow. Most men project their anima onto women without awareness, seeking not a partner, but a missing part of themselves. But when a woman stands rooted in silence, in sovereignty, she interrupts this unconscious dance. She refuses to play the role of the rescuer, the performer, the pleaser. Instead, she remains whole within herself, demanding that he confront the fragments within. His own psyche dot. This is why your silence disturbs him. It is not rejection. It is reflection dot in the spaces between your words. He is left alone with his own mind. His insecurities rise like smoke in the quiet. His doubts echo louder when you do not rush to ease them. His desire intensifies precisely because you do not offer the easy fix, the immediate gratification. You offer nothing but yourself, whole, contained, magnetic, and yet this nothingness, this restraint is everything. It is the oxygen to his fire, the absence that breeds obsession, the uncertainty that ignites pursuit. But remember, this is not about withholding love as punishment, nor about playing strategic games. It is about choosing self-respect over performance, about embodying the truth that your energy is not for sale, that your worth is not defined by his recognition. Your silence says what words never could. I do not chase. I do not beg. I stand whole. And if you desire me, you will rise to meet me where I am. And whether consciously or not, he feels the challenge in that unspoken declaration. He feels the invitation, not to possess you, but to evolve himself, to rise beyond his shadows, to meet you, not as a conqueror, but as an equal. Many men cannot do this. They will retreat, blame, project. But the few who dare to face their depths will understand. Your silence is not a wall. It is a mirror. Your quiet is not distance. It is depth. And your restraint is not rejection. It is reverence for yourself and for the sacred space between two souls yet unclaimed. And that drives him crazy. His logic cannot comprehend it. His pride cannot control it. His heart cannot resist. It doth, but eventually, the truth becomes undeniable in his quiet moments. When distraction fades and the world grows still, it is your presence that lingers. Not your words, not your pursuit, but the memory of your unwavering calm, your refusal to shrink, your quiet defiance of the ordinary. You became unforgettable by choosing peace over performance. You mastered the art of silence, not as absence, but as energetic command. The space you left unfilled haunts him more than any explanation ever could. And here lies the greatest paradox of all. The woman who does not chase attracts. The woman who does not speak to prove her worth is heard. The loudest. The woman who holds her stillness, unsettles his certainty, unbalances his ego, ignites his longing, and all without lifting a single finger. This is not manipulation. It is power rooted in self-possession. It is the energy of the mature feminine, fully integrated, unapologetically whole. You have faced your shadows. You have walked through your loneliness. You have stared into the quiet and made peace with your own reflection. And now, your silence becomes the loudest declaration of your worth. You do not explain your value. You do not compete for attention. You do not fracture yourself to soothe the insecurities of another. You remain grounded, unattached, magnetic. And though he may never understand why he cannot escape the thought of you, why your energy follows him like a lingering echo, he knows this much. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She chooses.